And with that, Mr. Walker, you may begin.
Chairman Roy, Ranking Member Scanlon, members of the Constitution Subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify on this important issue today. Let me start at the outset. The federal government's financial condition is much worse than advertised. Many people focus on the level of federal debt, which now exceeds $38 trillion. However, the debt is just the tip of our financial iceberg. Total federal liabilities and unfunded obligations exceed $125 trillion and are growing faster than the economy. Our current level of debt to GDP is 123%, which is greater than the end of World War II, but the difference is at the end of World War II, it was coming down. Now it's going up. Today, over 75% of the annual budget is on autopilot, mandatory spending. We've written a blank check. In addition, net interest is now the second largest and fastest growing expense in the federal budget, for which we get nothing. In my view, we must adopt a fiscal responsibility constitutional amendment if we want to restore and sustain fiscal sanity over time. A constitutional amendment is the only way to force Congress and the President to make the tough choices needed on both sides of the ledger in order to reduce overall debt burdens to a reasonable lower level of debt to GDP over the next 10 to 15 years and have mechanisms in place to make sure that we do not spin out of control again. There are several approaches to to deal with that constitutional need. Some advocate for a traditional balanced budget approach like the ones employed by the states. Others advocate for a principles-based balanced budget approach designed to achieve balance over a stated period of time. I and others prefer a debt-to-GDP-based approach, which is pro-growth and does not dictate to the Congress how to solve the numerator challenge, but it says you got to solve it. The latter two approaches have been used successfully by other countries. Importantly, irrespective of the approach that is employed, it must contain very limited exceptions and effective enforcement mechanisms. As you know, there are two ways to achieve a constitutional amendment under Article 5 of the Constitution. 2/3 of the House and Senate can pass an identical proposed approach, and 3/4 of the states must ratify it. Alternatively, 2/3 of the states can file an application for a convention of states to propose one or more amendments to the Constitution, and Article 5 says the Congress shall call the convention. It is non-discretionary, ministerial duty, and then if the states can come up with an amendment, then 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. The Federal Fiscal Sustainability Foundation, which I chair, discovered over 3 years ago that enough states had filed applications for a convention dedicated solely to proposing a fiscal responsibility amendment as far back as 1979. Enough applications existed for 25 years, and most recently in 2016 and 2017, and yet Congress failed to call the convention. Shockingly, the Congress never assigned responsibility to any party to receive, store, and count the applications until January of 2015, when it was assigned to this committee. To this committee's credit, it began steps to update its records earlier this year. The National Federalism Commission, which is an official interstate governmental body, worked with the committee to bring its records up to date, and they issued a report on Constitution Day of this year, which confirms what our foundation found, that there are enough applications existed. Congress should have called the convention many, many years ago. That was attended by Chairman Jody Arrington, Budget Committee Chair, the Honorable Bruce Lee, who is with us here today, who's head of the National Federalism Commission, and I spoke at that press briefing. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would like to enter into the record the National Federalism Commission's report and an illustrative call resolution.
Without objection.
Thank you. HCR 15, which is sponsored by House Budget Committee Chairman Jody Arrington, is designed to right this wrong and to call the related limited convention. I expect the states will sue if the Congress fails to act within a reasonable period of time. This issue would then have to be addressed by the Supreme Court. If that happens, it would be the biggest federalism case in the history of this great nation. In closing, let me be clear. In my view, we must adopt a constitutional amendment if we want to restore and sustain fiscal sanity at the federal level. If the Congress can achieve the necessary support to pass a credible proposed amendment, then it should do so in a timely manner. If not, Congress needs to call a limited convention to propose a fiscal responsibility amendment and allow the states to exercise their constitutional right under Article 5. Doing nothing is not an option. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, for your testimony. Mr. Couchman, you may begin.